What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Rosie TV, and today we're going to be talking about the Champions League group stage. The draw was yesterday, and today we're going to be going through every single group, and I'm going to give my prediction for the two teams that will end up going to the round of 16. The competition starts in a few weeks, so this is a pretty early predictions video. As we all know, the last match day of the group stage is in December, so a lot of things can happen in between that time. Managers can get sacked, key players can get injured, and etc. But we're still going to preview it, and we're going to start off with Group A. We have Benfica, Manchester United, Basel, and CSKA Moscow. I think this is a pretty straightforward group. I think Manchester United will top the group despite struggling last time out in the Champions League. They didn't even make it out of their group, which was relatively easy. But this time around, I think they've already started very well in the Premier League, and I think they will translate that into the Champions League. As for the runner-up, I think Basel will cause some teams some problems. In the past few years, they've gave Arsenal and Chelsea a hard time, but I do think Benfica is definitely the strongest team besides Manchester United, and I think they're going to end up getting runners-up from this group. Then we move on to Group B, a very interesting group. We have Bayern Munich, PSG, Anderlecht, and Celtic. There's obviously two clear favorites in this group, Bayern Munich and PSG, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see them face off against each other. PSG have spent so much money in this transfer window. They brought in Neymar, breaking a world record transfer fee. It looks like they're going to bring in Kylian Mbappe as well, and if they bring in Kylian Mbappe, if they finalize that deal, it looks like they're going to have the most money spent in one transfer window, which is absurd. They do have to perform in the Champions League, and I think anything but topping this group would be a disappointment. And I'm actually going to predict them to top the group. I think Bayern Munich will end up getting second place. I don't think that'll matter too much because Bayern Munich actually got runner-up last year in their group and ended up doing just fine. They were drawn against Arsenal in the round of 16, and as they always do, dispatched Arsenal. Sorry, Gunners, but it is what it is. I'm a Milan fan, so we're not in the Champions League anyways. So those are my predictions for Group B. PSG getting first place and Bayern Munich getting runner-up. Now we're going to move on to Group C. This is a very interesting group. Not the group of death, but I guess you could call it the group of death's little brother. We have Chelsea, Atletico Madrid, Roma, and Minos Karabag. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. They're an Azerbaijani team. I think this is the first time in Champions League history that an Azerbaijani team is in the competition. However, I don't see them doing anything in this group. I'd even be surprised if they got 1 point out of this group. This is going to be a very, very difficult group, especially for Roma. I don't really see them competing with Chelsea and Atletico Madrid. I think they will snatch a few points from this group, but ultimately, I'm actually going to say Atletico gets top of the group with Chelsea getting runners up. Antonio Conte has never been that good in the Champions League, and I don't see him beating a Champions League giant in Atletico Madrid. That's a team that always makes it to the semifinals and always makes a deep run. So I'm going to say Simeone's men get top with Antonio Conte's men getting runner up. I think Roma will end up going to the Europa League, getting third place. Now we move on to Group D. We have Juventus, Barcelona, Olympiacos, and Sporting. Juventus and Barcelona get to have their rematch from last year's quarterfinal. I think Olympiacos and Sporting could cause them a few problems, but ultimately I think Juve and Barcelona will be the ones that get out of this group. I think getting top of the group is very important. You could avoid a lot of big teams doing so, but looking at it, Juve have lost a lot of key players. Barcelona, they've lost Neymar, and they haven't replaced them quite yet as of recording. It looks like they're going to get Dembele, but I'm not quite sure. But even if they get Dembele, they still have a lot of midfield issues. But ultimately, I think Barcelona will actually get top of the group. I think Juventus are more likely to get tripped up by a team like Sporting or a team like Olympiacos. So I'm going to say Barcelona top this group with Juve getting runner-up. Moving on to Group E, and we have Spartak Moscow, Liverpool, Maribor, and Sevilla. I think Liverpool got very lucky with this group, and Klopp is known for doing well in the Champions League. We all remember that Borussia Dortmund team that made it to the final, but this time around he gets to have his rematch with Sevilla. A few years ago they were in the Europa League final and Liverpool fell short, but now they can get their revenge. Sevilla, on the other hand, they did lose Jorge Sampaoli. He got the Argentina job. I think losing Sampaoli is a big hit, so I wonder how they're going to do in this competition. I don't think Spartak or Maribor will be too much of a threat to these teams, but I actually think Liverpool will end up topping this group, and Sevilla following. It's really weird for me to say because I actually predicted Liverpool not to even make the Champions League. I thought they were going to end up losing to Hoffenheim in the playoff game, but they did very well in that second leg, dispatching Hoffenheim pretty easily. I do think Liverpool will struggle in the Premier League, and I did predict them to get 6th. But at the same time, I still think they can make a pretty decent Champions League run, maybe a quarterfinal run similar to Leicester last year. Obviously, Leicester failed big time last year in the Premier League, didn't even make the top 10, but did well in the Champions League, made a quarterfinal run. So that could happen for Liverpool. Moving on to Group F, we have Shakhtar Donetsk, Feyenoord, Napoli, and Manchester City. Now, a lot of people are drooling at the fact that we get to see a Sarri versus Pep Guardiola game. Two of the best managers in the world, and for me, Sarri, the best manager in Serie A. I've said that on countless occasions. I do think City have the edge, but at the same time, Napoli can put up a fight. I remember last year in the Champions League, I thought they did pretty well against Real Madrid despite losing both games 3-1. And Manchester City are definitely no Real Madrid, so I think it'll be a very competitive 2 games. But at the same time, Shakhtar and Feyenoord are actually 2 very good teams and could take a lot of points off of the big boys, but I don't think they're going to be too much of a threat at the end of the day. I still think City will actually top this group with Napoli getting runner-up. And as of right now, the 3 English teams that I talked about, I predicted them all to get top of their group, which would be huge for Premier League football. Over the past few years, the English teams have struggled in European competition, but with Manchester United winning the Europa League last year, I think the tide could begin to turn in favor of the Premier League teams. But we'll see if my predictions are right or not. They could easily be wrong. Next, we move on to Group G. We have Monaco, Porto, Besiktas, and RB Leipzig. I think this is actually a very interesting group. 4 teams that are pretty equal. First, looking at Monaco, they've lost a ton of key players, including the likes of Benjamin Mendy, Tiamo Bakayoko. It looks like they're going to lose Kylian Mbappe. They've lost Bernardo Silva. I don't know if Thomas Lemar is leaving or not. A lot of uncertainty around Monaco, and I do think Jardim won't do as well as he did last year, making a semi-final run in the Champions League. Looking at Leipzig, last year in the Bundesliga, they overachieved, but this time around, they're going to be in the Champions League. So I do think it's going to be a little bit harder for them. I think Hasenhüttl is a very good coach, and they've kept a lot of key players. But Porto and Besiktas are also big teams from their respective leagues. Porto, a mainstay in the Champions League. They always seem to do pretty well and always seem to make it at least to the round of 16. I think this is the hardest group to predict. I'm actually going to say Porto get top of the group because of their Champions League experience, and I think Monaco will get second. I just don't see Jardim not making the round of 16. I think Leipzig will end up getting third and going to the Europa League, and Besiktas getting fourth. But this is going to be a very interesting group to see. And now we end off on Group H, the group of death, in my opinion. We have Champions League winners Real Madrid, Tottenham Hotspur, Borussia Dortmund, and Apoel. Real Madrid, for me, are the clear favorites to get top of this group, even though last year they were in a group with Dortmund and actually end up getting second despite going the whole way and winning the Champions League. But this time around, I think they're even better. There's more chemistry within the team. I think Real Madrid will get top of the group pretty easily. And for second, I'm going to go ahead and say it's going to be Borussia Dortmund. Even if they lose Ousmane Dembele, I still think they have a lot of quality. And Tottenham, I'm just not convinced with them. They're going to be playing at Wembley. We know what happened last year at Wembley. They had a terrible record there, and they had a much easier group last year and couldn't get out of it. So I do think they're going to end up getting third and end up going to the Europa League. Apoel, on the other hand, they are very unlucky to be in this position, and at this point, they're just kind of happy to be in the Champions League. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Those are my Champions League group stage predictions. I will be doing match previews before they happen. Please tell me your predictions for the Champions League in the comment section below. Please like, share, and subscribe for more football content, and thank you for watching Rosie TV.